My daughter called and told me she'd stolen everything I owned. My name is James Wilson, and what happened next will teach every parent watching this about the danger of raising an entitled child. Rachel sold my 1967 Camaro for $28,000. She had no idea it was worth $85,000. She sold my professional tools for $7,000. Their real value was $35,000. But the worst part? She sold my old racing helmet at a yard sale for $200. That helmet was signed by Dale Earnhardt Sr. She called it all worthless junk from her failed mechanic father. What Rachel didn't know was that her old man had some friends in high places, friends who'd been looking for me for 13 years. So I made one phone call. By the time her wedding day arrived, Rachel discovered that stealing from the wrong person can turn your dream day into a nightmare that gets watched by 500,000 people online. I'm sharing this story because every parent needs to understand where the line is between supporting your children and enabling their destruction. Hit subscribe if you want to hear how this played out. Trust me, you won't see the ending coming. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room has the loudest connections. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. Rachel's getting married to Trevor Blackstone. Banking family, old money, the kind of people who've never worked with their hands a day in their lives. I drive a 20-year-old pickup truck, live in a modest house on Elm Street in Mooresville, North Carolina. Wear Carhartt work shirts and steel-toed boots. To Rachel's future in-laws, I'm exactly what they expected. Blue-collar nobody who doesn't belong in their world. 3 weeks ago, Rachel brought Trevor's mother, Patricia Blackstone, to meet me. This woman stepped out of a brand new Mercedes, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. She looked around my garage and said, "Oh my, Rachel didn't mention you were in manual labor." Manual labor, like fixing engines, was something shameful. Rachel just stood there, didn't defend me, didn't tell her mother-in-law that I worked 3 jobs to put her through college, that I paid every penny of her business degree at UNC Charlotte, that after her mother died of cancer in 2015, I sacrificed everything to make sure she never wanted for anything. Patricia continued her inspection tour. "And this old car, does it even run?" She was looking at my 1967 Camaro SS, tuxedo black, 396 big block engine. I restored every bolt, every piece of chrome myself. That car is my pride and joy. "It runs," I said quietly. "Well," Patricia sniffed, "I suppose everyone needs a hobby." Rachel finally spoke up. "Dad's always tinkering with old junk. It keeps him busy." Old junk. My daughter called my life's work old junk. That night, Rachel called me. "Dad, I need to ask you something about the wedding." "What's that, sweetheart?" "Trevor's family is covering most of the costs, but traditionally the bride's family contributes. They're expecting maybe $60,000. I nearly choked. "Rachel, honey, I don't have that kind of money." "I know, but maybe you could take out a loan? Use the house as collateral? This is important to me, Dad. I want to fit in with these people." "I can't mortgage the house, Rachel. It's all I have." The line went quiet. Then, "Fine. I should have known you wouldn't help when it really mattered." She hung up. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, she'd been cold, distant. When she called with her surprise, I understood why. Let me paint you the full picture of what Rachel took. My Camaro sold to a vintage car dealer for $28,000. She had no idea what it was really worth. That car, fully restored, is valued at $85,000. My tool collection. 30 years of professional snap-on tools. She sold them for $7,000. Their actual value? $35,000. And then there was the helmet. She sold my old racing helmet at a yard sale for $200. That helmet was signed by Dale Earnhardt Sr., worth $15,000. But here's what really hurt. She maxed out 3 credit cards I'd co-signed for her college expenses, $18,000, cards I was still helping her pay down, total damage, $63,000. But it wasn't about the money, it was about respect, about the assumption that everything I owned was worthless because I was worthless. Rachel saw a failed small-town mechanic who never amounted to anything, someone whose possessions could be liquidated without consequence because who would miss the junk of a nobody? She had no idea who she was dealing with, and she was about to find out. After Rachel hung up on me, I sat in my garage for a long time, looking at the empty space where my Camaro used to be, where my tool chest used to stand. I called the vintage car dealer first. "Yeah, we bought a '67 Camaro from a young lady," the dealer said. "Nice car. Already sold it, though. Got $35,000 for it at auction yesterday." They'd made $7,000 profit in 2 days on my car. Did she have paperwork proving ownership? She had the title, said it was her father's car, but he was moving to a nursing home and couldn't drive anymore. A nursing home. Rachel told them I was senile. Next, I called Tommy's tool exchange, where she'd sold my equipment. Oh yeah, that collection. Best tools I've seen in years. Some of those pieces were vintage Snap-on. Real hard to find stuff. How much did you sell them for? Moved the whole lot to a professional shop for $15,000. Kids selling them had no idea what she had. $15,000. They'd more than doubled their money. Then I made the call that really hurt. To Mrs. Henderson, who runs weekend yard sales in my neighborhood. Oh, the racing helmet, she said. Sweet girl said it belonged to her father, who used to dream about being in NASCAR. Very sad story. Young man who bought it seemed excited. Said something about authentication papers. Authentication papers, because the helmet wasn't just signed by Dale Earnhardt Sr. It was documented, certified, a piece of racing history. That's when I found the article. I was Googling the buyer's name, trying to track down my helmet, when I saw the headline, Lost NASCAR Treasure Found at Yard Sale. Racing News had run a feature story about my helmet, with pictures. The collector who bought it had contacted them immediately, knowing he'd found something special. The article showed the authentication certificate, Dale's signature. The date, October 15th, 1990, the night he won at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But there was more. The collector had done his research. He'd traced the helmet's history through NASCAR archives, and in those archives he'd found something interesting. The helmet belonged to Jimmy Wilson, crew chief, 3-time champion. The article included an old photo from 1994. Me, 30 years younger, holding the championship trophy with my driver. My face was partially obscured by the helmet I was holding, the same helmet Rachel had sold for $200. Jimmy Wilson, known in the racing community as Jimmy the Wrench, was one of NASCAR's most respected crew chiefs, the article read. His engines powered 3 championship seasons between 1987 and 2003. Wilson retired from racing in 2011, and his current whereabouts are unknown. Unknown. That was true enough. The article went on to describe the helmet's value, $15,000 minimum, possibly more at auction because of the championship connection. But they'd gotten one thing wrong. The article said Jimmy Wilson had disappeared from racing after 2010. The truth was, I'd walked away after 2011, after Danny Martinez died in a crash involving an engine I'd modified. I was cleared of fault. The investigation showed the crash was caused by driver error, not mechanical failure. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I should have caught something, should have done more. So I disappeared, changed my appearance, grew a beard, gained weight, moved to Mooresville and opened a small garage, became just another small-town mechanic named James Wilson. Most people who knew Jimmy the Wrench wouldn't recognize me now. I'd kept all my racing memorabilia in a storage unit across town. Championship rings, trophies, signed photographs with every NASCAR legend from 1985 to 2011. Even a letter from the NASCAR Hall of Fame inviting me to be inducted. I'd turned them down in 2018. Too many memories. Too much guilt. But sitting in my empty garage, reading about my stolen helmet, something shifted. Rachel thought she could take everything from me because I was nobody. Because I had no power, no connections, no way to fight back. She was wrong on all counts. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Found a number I hadn't called in 13 years. Tommy Rodriguez. Used to be my apprentice back in the day. Now he owned one of the biggest NASCAR teams in the sport. The phone rang twice. Hello? Tommy? It's Jimmy Wilson. Long pause. Then, Jimmy? Jimmy the Wrench? Is that really you? Yeah, Tommy, it's really me. Man, I've been looking for you for years. Where the hell have you been? It's a long story, but right now I need a favor. Anything, Jimmy, you know that. You made my career. Whatever you need. I took a deep breath. I need you to come to a wedding. Tommy was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. A wedding? Jimmy, you know I'm not much for formal events. This isn't a social call, Tommy. Someone stole from me. Someone who thinks I'm powerless to do anything about it. Who? My daughter. The laughter stopped. Your daughter? Jimmy, what the hell happened? I told him everything. The stolen car, the tools, the helmet, Rachel's dismissal of me as a failed mechanic, the banking family looking down on me like I was dirt. She sold your Dale Earnhardt helmet for $200? Tommy's voice was rising. Jimmy, that helmet is legendary. I remember when Dale signed it. You'd just built the engine that helped him win Charlotte. I know. And she doesn't know who you are? Doesn't know what you accomplished? I never told her. After Danny died, I wanted to be invisible. Jimmy, Tommy's voice was gentle now. Danny's crash wasn't your fault. You know that, right? We all know that. I know, but I couldn't keep building engines after that. Every time I heard them fire up, I thought about him. So you became a ghost. Yeah, and now my own daughter thinks I'm a ghost too, worth so little that she can steal everything I own without consequences. Tommy was quiet for a long moment. When's this wedding? Saturday, October 26th, Charlotte. This Saturday? Jimmy, that's... I know. NASCAR Championship weekend. I'm not asking you to miss anything important. Jimmy, you are something important. You're the reason half the guys in this sport have careers, including me. I could hear him thinking. You want me to show up at your daughter's wedding and what? Tell everyone who you really are? I want her to understand that actions have consequences, that respect isn't optional. And the legal stuff? The theft? I'm handling that separately. But I want her to see who she really stole from. And I want these banking people to understand exactly who they've been looking down on. Tommy laughed again, but this time it wasn't funny. It was the laugh of someone who just figured out how to solve a problem. Jimmy, you know who's going to be in Charlotte this weekend? Half the sport. Drivers, owners, everyone's in town for the championship. I know. And you know how much these guys respect you? How many of them would love to see you again? Tommy, I'm thinking we make this interesting, really interesting. Before I could respond, my phone was ringing. Rachel. Tommy, hold on, that's her calling. I switched to the other call. Dad? Rachel's voice was tight, nervous. Yes? I heard you were asking around about the car and tools. I was. Look, I know you're upset, but I needed that money. This wedding is important. These people, they judge everything. I can't show up looking like my family is poor. So you stole from me. I didn't steal. I sold things that were just sitting around. You never drive that old car anyway. And when's the last time you used those tools? You're 62 years old, Dad. You should be thinking about retirement, not holding on to a bunch of old junk. Old junk. There it was again. Rachel, those tools were how I made a living for 30 years. We're being the key word. You're a small-town mechanic now. Act like it. The disrespect in her voice was stunning, like she was talking to a child who didn't understand reality. And the credit cards? You co-signed them. That makes you responsible too. Besides, it's not like you were using that credit anyway. What does a guy like you need $18,000 of credit for? A guy like me, not her father. Not someone who sacrificed everything for her. A guy like me. Rachel, I want you to return everything. Cancel the charges. Make this right. She laughed. Actually laughed. Dad, that's not happening. The car is sold. The tools are sold. The money is spent. And even if I could return it all, which I can't, I won't. Because this is my wedding, and for once in my life, I'm not going to be embarrassed by my family. Embarrassed? Yes, embarrassed. Do you know what it's like growing up with a father who never achieved anything? Who spent his whole life fixing other people's cars instead of building something of his own? Do you know what it's like to introduce you to my friends and watch them try to figure out what to say? Each word hit like a punch. I raised you. I put you through college. You did the bare minimum. You kept a roof over my head and food on the table. Congratulations. That's what parents are supposed to do. I was quiet for a moment, processing the venom in her voice. Rachel, you don't know everything about me. I know enough. I know you're a 62-year-old mechanic who drives a 20-year-old truck and lives in the same house he bought 30 years ago. I know you've never traveled anywhere, never built anything lasting, never made a mark on the world. You think that's who I am? I know that's who you are, and honestly, Dad, I'm tired of pretending it's okay. I'm tired of making excuses for why my father never became anything. The line was quiet. I could hear her breathing. Well, I said finally, I guess you'll find out Saturday who I really am. What's that supposed to mean? It means some people from my past are coming to your wedding, people who know me differently than you do. Dad, don't you dare embarrass me. Rachel, after what you've done, embarrassment is the least of your problems. I hung up and switched back to Tommy. You hear any of that? Enough. Jimmy, we're not just showing up to this wedding, we're making a statement. After I hung up with Tommy, I sat in my empty garage for another hour.
The space felt hollow now. 30 years of careful collecting, gone in a weekend. But Rachel was wrong about one thing. I hadn't kept everything in this garage. I drove across town to Moore County Storage.
Unit 47. I'd been renting it for 15 years, ever since I moved to Mooresville. Climate-controlled, secure. The only place where Jimmy the Wrench still existed. The metal door rolled up with a squeal. Inside was my real life, the life Rachel never knew about. 3 championship trophies lined the back wall, each one 3 feet tall, gold-plated, engraved with years that defined my career. 1987, 1994, 2003. Below them, display cases filled with smaller trophies. 47 race wins as a crew chief, each one representing a Sunday when my engine was the difference between victory and defeat. But it was the personal items that told the real story. Championship rings, 3 of them in individual velvet boxes, white gold, diamonds, custom designed, each one worth more than most people make in a year. Photographs covered one entire wall. Me with Dale Earnhardt Sr., me with Jeff Gordon, me with Tony Stewart, me with every NASCAR legend from the 1980s and 90s. In most of them, I'm holding a trophy or standing next to a winning car. One photo stopped me cold. 1994 championship celebration. Me, 25 years younger, hoisting the trophy with my driver, Rick Morrison. We'd just won our 2nd championship together. In the background, a young kid wearing a crew shirt. Tommy Rodriguez, 19 years old, learning the trade. Now Tommy owned a team worth $100 million. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of everything. The trophies, the rings, the photographs, the signed engine block from Dale's 1990 car, the blueprints for the engine modification that revolutionized NASCAR racing in the mid-90s. My phone buzzed. Text message from Tommy. Jimmy, been thinking. Saturday's championship weekend. Half the drivers in the sport owe their careers to you. What if we made this a real reunion? I texted back. What do you mean? What if we brought some of the guys who remember what you did for this sport? Make it a proper tribute. Another text. Also, I called my lawyer. Your daughter committed theft. Multiple felonies. Want me to have him file charges? I stared at that message for a long time. Legal consequences. That would make it real. Official. Yes, I typed back. File the charges. Done. Paperwork will be ready tomorrow. We can have a sheriff server on Saturday if you want. Saturday. At her wedding. My phone rang. Tommy again. Jimmy, I've been making calls. You know who's in town for the championship? Rick Morrison? Rick, my driver. The one who won 2 championships with my engines. He wants to see you, Jimmy. Been asking about you for years. I don't know, Tommy. I walked away for a reason. I know about Danny Martinez. We all know. And we all know it wasn't your fault. Tommy, just listen. Rick's bringing the 1994 championship car to the NASCAR Hall of Fame next week. Full restoration. Same engine you built. He wants you there for the ceremony. The 1994 car. I built that engine from scratch. Hand-selected every component. It was a work of art disguised as a machine. But that's next week, Tommy continued. This weekend he just wants to see his crew chief again, the man who made his career possible. I was quiet, thinking. Jimmy, how many people get to see their legacy honored while they're still alive? How many get to watch their daughter realize she stole from a legend? It's not about revenge, Tommy. No, it's about respect. It's about truth. Your daughter thinks you're nobody. These banking people think you're nobody. Time to show them who you really are. After we hung up, I spent another hour in the storage unit, reading old letters, looking at old photos, remembering. One letter caught my attention. NASCAR Hall of Fame letterhead, dated 2018. Dear Mr. Wilson, the NASCAR Hall of Fame Selection Committee would like to formally invite you to be inducted into the class of 2019. Your contributions to the sport as a crew chief are undeniable, and your innovations in engine technology help define modern NASCAR racing. I'd turned them down. Too much guilt. Too much pain. But maybe it was time to stop hiding. I locked the storage unit and drove home. Tomorrow I'd file legal charges against my daughter. Saturday she'd meet the real James Wilson. And maybe, for the first time in 13 years, Jimmy the Wrench would come out of retirement. My phone buzzed one more time. Tommy. Jimmy, one more thing. The guys want to bring something special on Saturday. A surprise. Trust me? I thought about Rachel's voice on the phone. The contempt. The assumption that I was powerless. Yeah, Tommy, I trust you. Some surprises, I was learning, were worth waiting for. Friday morning, I drove to the law office Tommy had recommended, Anderson & Associates. They handled contracts for half the NASCAR teams in the sport. Mr. Wilson, the lawyer said, shaking my hand, Tommy Rodriguez speaks very highly of you, says you're something of a legend in racing circles. I used to be. We filed the paperwork, theft charges against Rachel, asset recovery documentation. The lawyer explained it would take 24 hours to process, meaning the sheriff could serve papers Saturday afternoon. At her wedding? I asked. If that's where she is when the papers come through, yes. And the credit card fraud? That's a separate felony. $18,000 puts it in serious territory. Your daughter could be looking at significant jail time. I signed the documents, all of them. By Friday afternoon, word was spreading through NASCAR circles. Tommy had been making calls. Rick Morrison was coming to Charlotte. So was Jeff Burton and Mark Martin, and a dozen other drivers who remembered Jimmy the Wrench. But I wasn't prepared for what happened Friday evening. I was closing up my garage when a black Mercedes pulled into the parking lot. Patricia Blackstone stepped out, wearing another expensive suit. Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Blackstone. She looked around my garage with the same disdain she'd shown before. I understand there's been some tension between you and Rachel about the wedding. Tension? Yes, she mentioned you were upset about some old car and tools. She stole from me. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. Oh, please, Rachel told me all about it. Some old junk she sold to help pay for the wedding. Honestly, Mr. Wilson, you should be grateful she found a way to contribute. Grateful? Yes, this wedding is costing the Blackstone family a considerable amount. The least Rachel's family could do is help with expenses. I studied this woman. The entitlement was staggering. Mrs. Blackstone, do you know what I do for a living? You're a mechanic. And what does that mean to you? She smiled condescendingly. It means you fix cars, blue-collar work. Nothing wrong with that, of course. Someone has to do it. Someone has to do it. Exactly. But let's be realistic about what that means in terms of social standing. Trevor is marrying beneath his station as it is. We're trying to make the best of it. The insult was delivered so casually, so matter-of-factly that it took me a moment to process it. You think Rachel is beneath your son's station? Well, yes, certainly. But she's lovely and Trevor is smitten, so we're doing what we can to help her fit in. This wedding will introduce her to the right people, help her learn how to move in our circles. Your circles? Yes, banking, finance, investment. People who build wealth instead of just maintaining other people's property. She said it like I spent my days cleaning toilets. And you think I have nothing to offer those circles? Patricia actually laughed. Mr. Wilson, what could you possibly offer? You live in a modest house, drive an old truck, work with your hands. These are people who own banks, not people who need to borrow from them. I was quiet for a moment, processing the depth of her ignorance. Mrs. Blackstone, what do you know about investments? I beg your pardon? Investments, building wealth. You mentioned that. What do you know about it? She looked puzzled by the question. Well, quite a lot, actually. My family has been in banking for 3 generations. So you understand the value of rare collectibles, vintage automobiles, authenticated sports memorabilia? Well, yes. These can be excellent investments if you know what you're looking for. And what would you say a 1967 Camaro SS fully restored might be worth? I wouldn't know specifically. Perhaps $15,000, $20,000, $85,000. Her smile faltered slightly. And a professional tool collection? Snap-on tools, some vintage, some custom? I really wouldn't. $35,000. The smile was gone now. And a racing helmet signed by Dale Earnhardt Sr. with authentication papers? Patricia was staring at me now. $15,000. The silence stretched between us. That's what your future daughter-in-law stole from me, Mrs. Blackstone. $135,000 in authenticated collectibles, plus $18,000 in credit card fraud. Patricia's face had gone pale. That's not possible, Rachel said. Rachel said it was worthless junk from a failed mechanic, just like you assumed. But why would you have such valuable items if you're just a what, Mrs. Blackstone? She couldn't finish the sentence. You want to know what I did before I became just a mechanic? I built engines that won NASCAR championships, 3 of them. I'm in the racing record books. The NASCAR Hall of Fame has been trying to induct me for years. Patricia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The people coming to your son's wedding tomorrow, they're not just wedding guests. They're NASCAR royalty, drivers who won races with engines I built, team owners who learned their trade working for me, people who've spent 13 years looking for Jimmy the Wrench. Jimmy the Wrench? That's what they called me in racing circles. Because I could fix anything, build anything, make any engine faster than it had a right to be. Patricia was backing toward her car now. Mrs. Blackstone, you've spent this whole conversation explaining to me how banking families build wealth. Let me tell you something about wealth. The engine technology I developed in the 1990s is still being used today. Every NASCAR team pays licensing fees for modifications I invented. I could buy your husband's bank with the royalties alone. That's not... Tomorrow at your son's wedding, you're going to meet the real me. And so is Rachel. And so is everyone else who thought they could look down on the failed mechanic. Patricia fumbled for her car door handle. Oh, and Mrs. Blackstone. The sheriff will be there too, with arrest warrants. She drove away without another word. I stood in my empty garage, looking at the oil stains where my Camaro used to sit. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Jimmy the Wrench would come out of retirement. And tomorrow, my daughter would learn that respect isn't something you can steal, it's something you earn. My phone buzzed. Text from Tommy. Jimmy, change of plans. We're not just bringing a few guys. We're bringing everyone. The whole damn sport wants to see you again. I smiled for the first time in days. Bring them all, I texted back. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. Saturday afternoon, October 26th, 2024. The Blackstone Manor wedding venue was everything I'd expected. Manicured gardens, fountain, enough white flowers to stock a funeral home. I arrived early, wearing the only suit I owned. Black, 20 years old, but it still fit. I parked my truck between the Mercedes and BMWs, drawing stares from the valets. Inside, the guests were exactly what Patricia had promised. Banking elite, investment brokers, people who'd never had grease under their fingernails. Rachel looked beautiful in her wedding dress. For a moment, I forgot why I was angry. She was still my little girl, even if she'd grown into someone I didn't recognize. She saw me and walked over, her face tight with worry. Dad, you said some people from your past were coming. What did you mean? You'll see. Please don't embarrass me. These people, they're important. I know exactly who they are, Rachel. The ceremony went off without incident. Trevor seemed like a good kid. Weak, but good. He kept shooting nervous glances at his mother, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. During the reception, I stood in the corner, watching Rachel work the room. She'd learned how to talk to these people, how to laugh at their jokes, how to pretend she belonged. At 4:30, I heard them before I saw them. The deep rumble of high-performance engines. Not just one or two. A convoy. Through the ballroom windows, I watched a procession of vehicles turn into the circular drive. Racing haulers, team motor coaches, custom trucks worth more than most people's houses. The wedding guests stopped talking, started pointing. Rachel appeared at my side. Dad, what's happening? Your education is about to begin. The first person through the ballroom doors was Tommy Rodriguez, 52 years old, silver hair, wearing a perfectly tailored suit. Behind him, I recognized faces I hadn't seen in 13 years. Rick Morrison, my driver, two-time champion. He was scanning the room looking for someone. Jeff Burton, Mark Martin, Sterling Marlin, drivers who'd won races with engines I'd built. But it was the last person through the door who made the biggest impact. Mike Helton, former NASCAR president. He was carrying something. The room had gone completely silent. These banking people knew they were looking at motorsports royalty, even if they didn't understand why. Tommy spotted me and smiled, started walking over. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced to the room, we're here today to honor someone very special, someone who's been hiding from us for way too long. All eyes turned to follow Tommy as he approached me. Rachel, he said, extending his hand to my daughter, you must be Jimmy's daughter. I'm Tommy Rodriguez. I own Rodriguez Racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. Rachel shook his hand, confused. Jimmy? Your father, though in our world we've always known him as Jimmy the Wrench. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Rick Morrison joined us. Rachel, your father is a legend, 3-time NASCAR Cup Series championship crew chief, the man who built the fastest engines in the sport. That's not possible. My father is a mechanic. He is a mechanic, Rick said. The greatest mechanic in NASCAR history. Mike Helton stepped forward. James Wilson, on behalf of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, I'd like to present you with something we should have given you years ago. He opened a wooden box, revealing a crystal award, the NASCAR Hall of Fame Lifetime Achievement Award, for contributions to the sport that changed racing forever. The room erupted in murmurs, people pulling out phones, taking pictures. Rachel was staring at me like I was a stranger. "Dad, what's happening?" "What's happening is that you stole from the wrong person," I said quietly. Tommy pulled out his phone. "We're live streaming this reunion to NASCAR's social media. 500,000 people watching right now." On his phone screen, I could see the comments flowing. "Jimmy the Wrench is alive. Legend. Greatest crew chief ever. Tell them about the 1994 season, Jimmy," Rick said. "Tell them about the engine that changed everything." I looked around the room, banking elite standing with their mouths open, Patricia Blackstone looking like she might faint, Trevor staring at me with new understanding, and Rachel, my daughter, finally seeing me for who I really was. "The 1994 season," I said, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "We were struggling. Rick was fast, but not fast enough. So I developed a new valve timing system, increased power by 15% without sacrificing reliability." "That system is still used today," Tommy added. "Every team in NASCAR pays licensing fees for Jimmy's innovations." "How much?" someone called from the crowd. Rick grinned. "The royalties alone are worth about $2 million a year. $2 million a year." The banking people were doing math in their heads. "But that's not why we're here," Mike Helton said. "We're here because someone stole from Jimmy. Someone took his tools, his car, his memorabilia. Someone who didn't understand what they were taking." All eyes turned to Rachel. She was pale, shaking. "Rachel," Tommy said gently, "your father's 1967 Camaro wasn't just a classic car. It was built using racing technology, handcrafted by a master. You sold an $85,000 automobile for $28,000. His tools weren't just tools. They were precision instruments, some custom-made for NASCAR work. $35,000 worth, sold for $7,000. And the helmet," Rick shook his head. "Rachel, that helmet was signed by Dale Earnhardt Sr. the night he won Charlotte Motor Speedway in 1990, using an engine your father built." The room was completely silent now. "Combined with the credit card fraud," Mike Helton continued, "we're talking about felony theft of over $150,000. That's when Deputy Mike Johnson walked into the ballroom. I'd called him earlier, asked him to time his arrival for maximum impact. Mike was a huge NASCAR fan. When he'd learned who I really was, he'd volunteered to serve the papers personally. "Rachel Wilson?" he said, his voice carrying across the ballroom. Rachel nodded, unable to speak. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for felony theft, credit card fraud, and forgery. You have the right to remain silent." The live stream was capturing everything. Rachel in handcuffs, Patricia Blackstone fainting, Trevor trying to process that his father-in-law wasn't a failed mechanic but a NASCAR legend worth millions. The banking elite pulling out their phones, frantically Googling Jimmy the Wrench and finding page after page of racing history.
"Wait," Rachel said as Deputy Johnson finished reading her rights. "Dad, please, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "That's the problem, Rachel. You never bothered to know." Tommy stepped forward. "Jimmy, what do you want to do about this?" I looked at my daughter, handcuffed in her wedding dress, the most expensive lesson of her life playing out in front of 500,000 NASCAR fans online. "Deputy Johnson, what are her options?" "Well, given the value of the stolen property and the credit card fraud, she's looking at serious felony charges. But if the victim is willing to consider restitution..." I was quiet for a long moment. This was the decision point. How far was I willing to take this? "Rachel," I said finally, "you have a choice. You can go to trial and probably spend the next 5 years in prison, or you can make this right." "How? Dad, how can I make this right? The money's spent, the car is sold. I can't undo what I did."
"The car sold at auction for $35,000. The tools sold for $15,000. The helmet? Well, that's more complicated." Rick Morrison pulled out his phone. "Actually, Jimmy, I've got some good news about that." He showed me a picture. My helmet, now displayed in a private racing museum. "The collector who bought it? He's here. Flew in from California when he heard about the reunion. Says he'd be honored to return it to you. No charge." "And the car?" Tommy grinned. "Rodriguez Racing just bought a 1967 Camaro at auction. Funny coincidence." I looked at the assembled NASCAR royalty. These men had flown in from across the country on the biggest weekend of the racing season to support me, to make sure my daughter understood what she'd done. "Here's what's going to happen, Rachel. These gentlemen are going to help recover everything you stole. You're going to pay back every penny of the credit card fraud with interest. And you're going to do 500 hours of community service at the local NASCAR charity? And if I refuse, then you go to prison." Rachel looked around the ballroom, at the cameras still recording, at the banking elite who now understood exactly who her father was, at her new husband who was staring at her with a mixture of shock and disappointment. "I'll do it," she whispered. Deputy Johnson removed the handcuffs. "Mr. Wilson, you'll need to sign some paperwork, but we can handle the restitution agreement instead of prosecution." Patricia Blackstone had recovered from her fainting spell. She approached me cautiously. "Mr. Wilson, I owe you an apology." "Yes, you do. I had no idea who you were. The things I said about blue-collar work, about social standing, you meant every word, Mrs. Blackstone. The only thing that's changed is that you now know I have money." She flinched. "But here's what you still don't understand. My value isn't in my bank account. It's in what I built, what I created. The engines that won championships, the innovations that changed racing forever, the young mechanics I trained who went on to build careers of their own." I gestured to Tommy. "Tommy Rodriguez started as my apprentice 25 years ago. Now he owns one of the most successful teams in NASCAR. That's legacy, Mrs. Blackstone. That's real wealth." The live stream was still running. Comments flooding in from NASCAR fans around the world. "Jimmy the Wrench is back. Greatest comeback ever. Legend revealed." Mike Helton stepped forward. "Jimmy, on behalf of the NASCAR community, we'd like to formally invite you to return to the sport. As a consultant, advisor, whatever capacity you'd like." I looked around the ballroom one more time. At Rachel, still in her wedding dress, finally understanding who her father really was. At the banking elite, frantically reassessing their assumptions. At the NASCAR legends who'd dropped everything to support me. "Mike, let me think about it. Right now, I just want to go home." "Your real home," Tommy said, "is with us, always has been." As the NASCAR convoy prepared to leave, Rick Morrison approached me one final time. "Jimmy, the 1994 championship car is being restored for the Hall of Fame. We want you there for the unveiling. Will you come?" I thought about Danny Martinez, the guilt that had driven me into hiding, the fear that had kept me away from racing for 13 years. "Yeah, Rick, I'll be there." The greatest secrets I'd learned were meant to be revealed at exactly the right moment, and sometimes the right moment is when your daughter needs to learn that quiet doesn't mean powerless. It just means you're saving your strength for when it really counts. The next morning, the story was everywhere. NASCAR legend emerges from 13-year hiding to stop daughter's wedding theft. ESPN. Jimmy the Wrench returns. Racing royalty crashes society wedding. Racing news. From mechanic to millionaire, the secret life of a NASCAR champion. Charlotte Observer. The live stream from yesterday had been viewed 2 million times overnight. Someone had uploaded a compilation video. Banking elite learns not to mess with NASCAR royalty. It was going viral. Rachel called at 8 a.m. "Dad, I can't leave the house. There are news vans outside." "Welcome to consequences, Rachel." The story is everywhere. People at Trevor's bank are calling him, asking if he's really married to the woman who stole from Jimmy the Wrench. And what's Trevor saying? He's standing by me. His mother isn't speaking to either of us. Patricia's discovering that social standing is more fragile than she thought. Rachel was quiet for a moment. "Dad, I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." "Yesterday, when all those people showed up, did you plan that? The timing, the cameras, everything?" "Yes. You wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone. I wanted you to understand what you'd done, who you'd done it to." "But Dad, it's all over the internet now. Everyone knows. Trevor's family, my friends, people at work." "Rachel, when you stole from me, you didn't just take my property. You took my dignity. You dismissed my entire life as worthless. You told people I was senile, that I needed to be in a nursing home. I was desperate, the wedding pressure, Patricia's comments about my family. So you threw me under the bus to save yourself embarrassment." Silence. "Now you know how public humiliation feels. The difference is, mine was undeserved. Yours is justice." At 10 a.m., Tommy called. "Jimmy, we've got your car back, and the tools. Want me to bring them by?" "How?" "Money talks in racing circles. The dealer who bought your Camaro got a visit from Rodriguez Racing yesterday evening. We explained the situation. Made him an offer he couldn't refuse." "How much?" $50,000 for the car." "He made a profit. You get your Camaro back. Everybody's happy." "Tommy, I can't let you—" "Jimmy, that car is part of racing history. It belongs with you. Consider it a gift from everyone who learned their trade working with you." By noon, my garage was full again. The Camaro in its usual spot, looking exactly the same. The tool chest back where it belonged, every drawer organized the way I liked it. But something was different. The space didn't feel empty anymore. Maybe because I wasn't hiding anymore. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Wilson? This is David Chen from the Charlotte Observer. We'd like to do a feature story about your return to public life. I'm not giving interviews. Sir, with respect, the story is already out there. Wouldn't you prefer to tell your side? I thought about it. For 13 years, I'd avoided the spotlight. Let other people control the narrative. One interview, print only. And you donate $1,000 to the Danny Martinez Memorial Fund. Deal. The reporter arrived that afternoon. Young guy, probably Rachel's age. He spent 2 hours asking about my racing career, my innovations, my decision to retire. Mr. Wilson, why did you hide your identity from your daughter? After Danny died, I wanted to disappear. Racing reminded me of loss. I thought if I could become invisible, the guilt would go away. But it didn't? No, it just made me invisible to everyone, including my own daughter. Do you regret exposing her publicly? I thought about Rachel's call that morning, the humiliation in her voice. I regret that it was necessary, but sometimes people only learn when the consequences are public. What's next for you? I don't know. NASCAR wants me back. The Hall of Fame wants to induct me. But I'm not the same person who walked away 13 years ago. How are you different? I'm done being invisible. That evening, Patricia Blackstone showed up at my garage. She looked like she hadn't slept. Mr. Wilson, may I speak with you? Go ahead. I came to apologize, not just for yesterday, but for everything. The comments about manual labor, about social standing. Apology accepted. I also came to ask for your help. With what? Trevor, he's questioning everything now. His trust in Rachel, his trust in me, his place in the family business. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Mr. Wilson, I know I have no right to ask, but could you talk to him, help him understand that marriage requires forgiveness? I studied this woman. Yesterday she dismissed me as worthless. Today she was asking for my help. Mrs. Blackstone, what changed your mind about me? Learning who you really are. But I'm the same person I was yesterday, the same person who fixed cars and lived in a modest house. The only thing that changed was your perception. She nodded slowly. That's the lesson here. Value isn't determined by appearance. Worth isn't measured by social status. Respect isn't optional. I understand that now. Do you? Because yesterday you told me that someone has to do blue-collar work, like it was beneath your notice. Today you want my help because you learned I have money. Patricia flinched. True respect means valuing people for who they are, not what they have. If you can learn that lesson, really learn it, then maybe I'll talk to Trevor. She left without another word, but I had a feeling she'd be back. Some lessons take time to sink in. 2 weeks later, the full scope of the consequences was becoming clear. Rachel had lost her job. The marketing firm where she worked decided that being associated with someone who stole from NASCAR royalty was bad for their image. Trevor was still standing by her, but the strain was showing. His mother had stopped speaking to both of them. His father was threatening to cut off his trust fund. Dad, Rachel said during one of our weekly phone calls, I don't know if our marriage is going to survive this. That's between you and Trevor. But it's because of what you did. The public humiliation, the media coverage. Rachel, your marriage problems are because of what you did. Actions have consequences. I'm doing the community service, 500 hours at the Danny Martinez Memorial Fund. I'm learning about racing safety, about what the sport means to people. And I'm learning about Danny Martinez, the driver who died. I read about the crash, about how you blamed yourself. I was quiet. Dad, is that why you retired? Because you felt responsible for his death? Partly. But the investigation cleared you. It wasn't your fault. I know that. But knowing something and feeling it are different things. So you disappeared because you couldn't handle the guilt. I disappeared because I didn't want to build another engine that might fail. Didn't want to be responsible for another driver's safety. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Dad, I met Danny's widow, Eleanor Martinez. She runs the charity fund. I know Eleanor. She told me something. She said Danny would have been furious with you for walking away, that he believed in your engines more than anyone. I'd heard this before, from Tommy, from Rick, from everyone who knew Danny and me. She also said something else. She said the safety innovations you developed after Danny's crash have saved dozens of lives, but you never stayed around to see them implemented. Rachel? Dad, what if hiding from your past didn't just hurt you? What if it hurt the sport too? 3 weeks after the wedding, I got a call from Mike Helton. Jimmy, we've had thousands of people asking about you since the video went viral. Young mechanics wanting to learn from you. Racing teams asking for consulting. The sport needs you back. Mike, I'm not the same person who left. Good, the person who left was carrying guilt that wasn't his to carry. Maybe the person coming back can focus on building instead of remembering. And if I'm not ready, then take your time. But Jimmy, consider this. Your daughter is doing community service at the Danny Martinez Memorial Fund. She's learning about racing safety. Maybe it's time you did too. That afternoon, I drove to the Memorial Fund offices. Eleanor Martinez was there, working with Rachel on safety education materials. Jimmy? Eleanor said, standing up when she saw me. It's been too long. Eleanor, I'm sorry I haven't... Stop! You don't owe me apologies. You owe the sport your expertise. Rachel looked up from her work. Dad, did you know that the engine modifications you developed are mandatory safety features now? Every NASCAR engine uses your innovations. I knew. And did you know that racing teams have been trying to recreate your 1990s designs? Some successfully, some not. People are getting hurt because they don't understand the engineering principles. Eleanor nodded. We need the original designer back. Not for glory, not for money. For safety. I looked at the wall behind Eleanor's desk. Photos of Danny throughout his career. In several of them, I was visible in the background working on his car. What would I do? Teach, Eleanor said simply. Share what you know. Help the next generation build better, safer engines. And Rachel? Could work with me here. She's got a good head for organization, and she's learning the technical side quickly. Rachel looked at me hopefully. Dad, what do you think? I thought about 13 years of hiding, 13 years of guilt, 13 years of wasted knowledge. I think, I said slowly, it's time to stop being invisible. Maybe the best revenge wasn't humiliation. Maybe it was redemption, for both of us. 6 months later, I was back at Charlotte Motor Speedway, not as Jimmy the Wrench, legendary crew chief, as James Wilson, racing safety consultant and instructor. The NASCAR Hall of Fame had finally convinced me to accept induction. The ceremony was next week, with Rachel and Trevor in attendance. They'd worked through their marriage problems, partly through couples therapy, partly through learning to value things that couldn't be measured in dollars. Patricia Blackstone had surprised everyone by volunteering at the Danny Martinez Memorial Fund. I need to learn what real value looks like, she'd told Eleanor. My consulting work was fulfilling in ways I hadn't expected. Young mechanics eager to learn, racing teams implementing safety innovations. The knowledge I'd accumulated over 30 years finally being shared instead of hidden. Rachel approached me after a training session with new crew chiefs. Dad, I have something for you. She handed me a small wrapped box. Inside was a keychain, a miniature wrench engraved with World's Greatest Dad. It's not much, she said, but I wanted you to have something that acknowledged both sides of who you are, the NASCAR legend and the father who raised me. I looked at my daughter. 6 months of community service had changed her. She was working part-time at the Memorial Fund now, using her business degree to help expand their educational programs. Rachel, I want to tell you something. What's that? I'm proud of who you're becoming, not who you were, but who you're choosing to be now. Even after everything I did, especially after everything you did, it would have been easy to stay bitter, to blame everyone else. Instead, you're doing the work to change. She smiled. I learned from watching you. What do you mean? You spent 13 years punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. But when it mattered, when people needed your knowledge, you came back. You chose to build instead of hide. I put my arm around my daughter's shoulders. Want to know a secret, Rachel? What? The best engines aren't built overnight. They're rebuilt, refined, improved. Sometimes you have to tear everything down to build something better. Is that what we did? Tore everything down and built something better. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and let me know in the comments what you thought. Because sometimes the most powerful lesson is learning that respect isn't about what you own. It's about what you earn. And sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming who you were always meant to be.